Right now, it's New York's #1 news with David Navarro and Sandra Bookman and meteorologist Brittany Bell with the exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Now, Eyewitness News at noon.
The poetry of campaigning may have come to a close last night at 9, but the beautiful prose of governing has only just begun. The hard work of improving New Yorkers' lives starts now.
New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani getting down to business just hours after being elected. The plans he announced a short while ago and the challenges he faces.
And after her win in New Jersey, Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill is also getting to work. Today, she kicked off the transition of power with current governor Phil Murphy. Plus, we have an AccuWeather alert.
There's an AccuWeather alert for damaging winds late tonight through early tomorrow morning. We could see winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour, leading to downed trees and power outages. I'll have the latest coming up.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Sandra Bookman.
I'm David Navarro. We'll get to the stories in just a moment, but we begin with 4 people found dead in the Bronx. And officials say it looks like a triple murder-suicide. Crystal Cranmore on the scene. Crystal.
Good afternoon. We're actually on Lacombe Avenue in front of the Castle Hill houses. We believe this discovery was made on the 5th floor of the apartment. I actually just took an elevator up there moments ago, and there's a heavy police presence behind me, very quiet at this point. But again, like I mentioned, heavy police presence on the 5th floor. We understand this discovery of 4 adults dead inside of an apartment here again at the Castle Hill houses on Lacombe Avenue. The discovery apparently taking place around 9:45 this morning, and police are calling it at this point, they believe, a triple murder-suicide. Now, I actually just seconds ago spoke with a woman who lives in one of the buildings here at the Castle Hill houses, and she says that she knows one of the people found dead inside the home, a very dear friend of hers, a close friend of hers, and so she is just devastated at this point. But again, is all very much under investigation at this point. Still so many questions that need to be answered. But again, police at this point saying that it's a possible triple murder-suicide. That is the very latest here in the Bronx. Crystal Cranmore, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Crystal. We're going to go now to last night's resounding victories for Zohran Mamdani and Mikey Sherrill. Both candidates already stepping up and out months before they even get into office.
Now, with the victory, the Democratic Socialist will etch his place in history as the city's first Muslim mayor. The mayor-elect just a short while ago held his post-election news conference.
We have team coverage. Lindsay Tuckman is in New Jersey, Joe Torres and NJ Burkett in Queens, and Washington Bureau Political Chief Rick Klein with analysis. But we begin with NJ. He's live at the Mamdani press conference at Flushing Meadow Park. NJ.
And you couldn't imagine a more iconic location in Queens than here outside the Unisphere. But yes, 12 hours after he left the stage in Brooklyn, Zohran Mamdani announced the 4 co-chairs of his transition team. Among them is former Adams deputy mayor Maria Torres Springer. The message today from the mayor-elect is that there is now a help wanted sign on City Hall.
I am willing to consider anyone to work in my city hall, so long as they are committed to working for my administration and to delivering on an agenda to lower costs for New Yorkers in the most expensive city of the United States.
The team is coincidentally all female. All have deep experience in municipal, some of them in federal government. Mamdani's victory was historic, a clear referendum on his agenda for change, specifically affordability. Mamdani promised last night that he will push back on threats from the White House while pushing hard to make life in New York City more affordable for working people. Today, he said the city is facing 2 crises, a crisis of affordability and a crisis of authoritarianism. He did not specifically mention public safety, but he did repeat his pledge to retain NYPD Commissioner Jessica Tisch.
I've made my intention clear to retain Commissioner Tisch, and I look forward to having conversations with her on that very subject. Last night, I spent time with my wife, with close members of my team, as we watched the results come in. I spoke briefly with Curtis Sliwa, and then I headed to address the thousands of New Yorkers that were there, waiting to hear of what this new era of government will look like. And that is always my focus. Not on the candidates of this past election, but rather on the people that are so often left behind by our politics, and I look forward to serving them.
And I can't tell you how many times he used the word affordability in his remarks today, but he used it a lot, as he did, of course, during the campaign. Now, speaking on Good Morning America this morning, Mamdani said he had not yet decided whether he will live in Gracie Mansion or whether he'll stay in his rent-stabilized apartment in Queens. And it is worth noting he would not be the first mayor not to live in Gracie Mansion. You may remember Mayor Bloomberg lived in his townhouse on East 79th Street, did not live in Gracie Mansion, but used it for special events. Much more on the transition coming up on Eyewitness News first at 4 o'clock. We're live in Queens. NJ Burkett, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
NJ, thank you very much. New York saw a historic turnout in this mayoral race, with Zohran Mamdani collecting more than 1 million votes. So how are New Yorkers feeling post-election day? Eyewitness News reporter Joe Torres continues our coverage live in Astoria, the neighborhood the mayor-elect calls home. Joe?
Sandra, plenty of smiling faces on the streets and on the people here in Astoria. And granted, many of those smiles are on the faces of young voters who today are soaking up what happened yesterday, the election of a millennial mayor who latched on to their worries about living and surviving in a very expensive city. It looked like a New Year's Eve party, but this was an election night celebration. This is Citizen App video of overjoyed Zohran Mamdani supporters who filled 24th Avenue in Astoria last night to mark the historic results of a groundbreaking victory. Young voters, energized by the campaign promises of a 34-year-old Muslim state assemblyman born in Uganda, hit the streets to mark the dawn of a new era in New York City politics.
I think that it's really amazing that we have a movement that everyone was excited about, that was able to prevail over something that we were all really worried about.
Mamdani supporters crowded the Bohemian Hall and Beer Garden to watch the election night returns that quickly confirmed what pre-election polls reveal time and time again. A sizable lead for the frontrunner, who saw winning projections about an hour after the polls closed. In Mamdani's home district this morning, the excitement and energy of last night's epic win looms large. Astoria resident Hannah Lieberman is also a small business owner.
I really like that he wasn't bought by anyone. I think those kinds of grassroots campaigns are so inspiring and what we need.
I mean, I think the big thing is having better access to housing, expanding the availability of housing, and some of the rent control that they can pursue.
We did quickly chat with, shall we say, more seasoned voters who weren't as excited about speaking on camera regarding last night's election results. And as they walked away, they would say, "We'll see what happens." Important to point out that young voters actually have that very same sentiment and told us it's time to hold Zohran Mamdani accountable for his campaign promises. And that accountability, they said, begins on day one, January 1st. Live in Astoria, I'm Joe Torres, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Joe. Now to New Jersey, where Congresswoman Mikey Sherrill made history, becoming the first female Democrat to lead the Garden State. The polls were close in the final days of the campaign, but when it was done, Sherrill finished with a decisive victory. For more, we go live to Eyewitness News reporter Lindsay Tuckman in Hoboken. Lindsay, I understand we're going to hear from Sherrill herself later this afternoon.
Yeah, indeed we will, David. And we also spoke to people here in busy downtown Hoboken, where residents tell us that affordability is what they want to see the next governor of New Jersey address. And polling data from the polls does show that a lot of voters want taxes and the economy to be the most important issues that the governor addresses. And clearly they believe that Mikey Sherrill is the woman for the job.
New Jersey Governor-elect Mikey Sherrill is hitting the ground running after her big win Tuesday night, meeting Wednesday morning with current Governor Phil Murphy in Trenton to discuss her transition to office.
New Jersey feels like the center of it all, and I'm really excited about what we have coming up.
The Democrat spoke about her win on Good Morning America today. Sherrill defeated Republican Jack Ciattarelli, who led an energetic campaign and was endorsed by President Trump. Sherrill focused much of her campaign on standing up to the president and casting blame for voters' concerns over the economy on Republican policies.
Given how poor the economy under this administration is doing, I think we see 22 states in recession. I really want to make the case that, look, if we are going to create some economic success, New Jersey is the place to do it.
The four-term member of Congress was a Navy helicopter pilot and former prosecutor. And now, the 53-year-old will be the second female governor of the Garden State. For voters in Hoboken this morning, they hope she follows through on her campaign promises.
I want to be able to afford food. It's too expensive. You know, it has to go down.
And I hope every elected official is up for the task. Doesn't matter what party, as long as they're doing their best, trying to do the best for the community.
Now, after this morning's meeting wraps up with Murphy, Cheryl does plan to be holding a news conference within the next hour where she will address her vision for the future now that the election is over. And it is very likely she will talk about those issues from those voters we just heard from. Live in Hoboken, Lindsay Tuckman, Channel 7 Eyewitness News.
Thank you, Lindsay. So what do these races mean for the tri-state area, and what do they say about what voters want?
Joining us now, ABC News Washington Bureau Chief Rick Klein. I know you slept very little last night, and thanks for being here with us. Look, Zohran Mamdani, a decisive victory. Mikey Sherrill did better than polls had suggested she would. Were there common elements in both of those campaigns, both of those states, both sides of the Hudson, that you saw maybe that's the reason voters went with the folks they did?
Yes, I think it comes down to cost of living. I think it comes down to the price that people pay in everyday lives. Because if you look at them on paper, they're different generations, different genders, different religions, different backgrounds, and they presented themselves to voters in much different ways. Mamdani, Democratic Socialist, Mikey Sherrill, very much in the moderate lane of her party. But what united them was not just the anti-Trump thing, which was everywhere this year, but was I hear what your concerns are in New York or in New Jersey, and this is what I want to do about it.
Clearly, Trump was still a factor in all of this. I mean, moments after his victory, Mamdani was, taking aim at Trump, that he was going to stand up to him, which, of course, Trump has already said that if Mamdani won, he would withhold funds from New York City. And a report just came out today that if they follow through, the White House and the federal government follows through with their plans to have states carry more of the disaster rate on their own, this would be a catastrophe for New York City. So how does Mamdani stand up to Donald Trump and the White House administration for the betterment of New York City?
Well, there's a rhetorical end to that, and I think you heard him last night signal, turn up the volume, Mr. President. He knows that President Trump's going to be watching every one of his moves. And then there's the very practical piece of it. New York is a huge place with a big budget, but you're right, needs the resources of the federal government like any other city would. And there's areas of cooperation. There's also areas of confrontation. He was asked about it on Good Morning America today and said, we've got the courts. We're not going to just presume that things are legal. That might provide something of a check, but we also know that's a slow process. And I think you combine that with the fact that Mamdani is going to have so much on-the-job training starting January 1 to learn how to manage this massive city and bureaucracy and all of the services that residents here depend on, and deliver for his campaign his campaign promises, and put up a fight against Donald Trump. He is going to be under a crazy amount of spotlights that'll be overlapping.
If you're the mayor of New York City, that spotlight's always
that's
there.
Right.
Yeah. There's a lot of talk in the last few years about New Jersey being purple, because it can swing either way. Last night, we saw some decisive Democratic victories. Should we take that as a sign that it's sliding back to be a blue state, or is this maybe a one-off election?
Well, it's different than the previous ones. What's interesting to me is that Chitterelli came within 3 points of defeating Governor Phil Murphy just 4 years ago, and then Donald Trump came 10 points closer. He still lost pretty badly, but came 10 points closer to winning in 2024 versus 2020. So I think each race is going to be different, and we're seeing a tendency in a lot of states, New Jersey included, to maybe move a little bit depending on the prevailing political winds. But I think the concerns about Democrats just bleeding away their support and all the places that are tipping a little more red being gone for them, those are alleviated, I think, substantially by the fact that Cheryl won by as much as she did.
But is that because not only are there concerns about the tariffs under Trump, but also, the government shutdown?
Sure.
Is that a factor more so than, maybe the Democrats are getting it together?
It might be. And I think Democrats will have to be careful not to overread this as some kind of a mandate or some kind of a magic bullet for them in the midterm elections next year. But I think the lesson that they can take from Mamdani and Sherrill and Spanberger is these are different people that fit different states at different times. And that's sometimes what you need to do to win.
Well, a lot of political analysts like yourself will be taking a hard look at both of those races, particularly the Mamdani. to see what we have learned at the end of the day. So much appreciate you being with us again, Rick Klein.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
We're going to take a quick look at some of the other results on the ballot in New York City. Democrat incumbent Alvin Bragg won re-election as Manhattan DA. In fact, all 5 borough president offices were up for re-election in Manhattan. Democrat State Senator Brad Hoylman Siegel won and will replace Mark Levine, who won the election to become New York City Comptroller.
In the other 4 boroughs, the incumbents were all reelected. Antonio Reynoso in Brooklyn, in the Bronx, Vanessa Gibson won, in Queens, Donovan Richards reelected, and on Staten Island, Republican incumbent Vito Vasello won.
As for the ballot proposals, voters chose yes on questions 1 through 5 and no on 6. We are going to take a closer look at those in our next half hour.
Yeah, we'll take a look at some of the other races as well around the country coming up at 12:30. And you can find a complete list of results on abc7ny.com.
Fairly mild post-election day weather-wise, more clouds and sun, but the evening's going to bring some big changes. Chillier air, showers, strong winds. Meteorologist Brittany Bell here now. We're talking AccuWeather alert, huh?
That's right, Sandra. So it's not so bad right now. Temperature is on track to reach the 60s, around 65, but there's an AccuWeather alert for damaging winds late tonight through early tomorrow morning. And that's for winds that could gust up to 50 to 60 miles per hour. Winds that strong could knock over trees, also tree branches, lead to power outages, and even lead to dangerous travel. The latest alerts include a wind advisory for most of New Jersey, the Hudson Valley, and the Catskills, a high wind watch that includes the boroughs, northeast New Jersey, Long Island, and sections of Westchester, coastal Fairfield County, even a high wind warning for western Ulster County, and that's the top end of the wind alert scale. And winds are slowly getting stronger as expected now out of the southwest, gusting up to 20 to 26 miles per hour. We could have winds gusting up to 30 to 35 throughout this afternoon, but after sunset, as that cold front comes in, that's when winds really start to crank up, gusting up to 40 to 50, even 60 miles per hour in some spots. We start out blustery early tomorrow morning, but winds begin to taper off and relax later Thursday and continue to die off on Friday. And here's a look at our next weather maker, this cold front and area of low pressure that will also bring us a few showers tonight. I'm going to show you the hour-by-hour timing coming up. David, Sandra.
All right, Brittany, thanks a lot. Coming up on Eyewitness News at noon, as the federal government shutdown becomes the longest in history, Democratic leaders issuing a new demand to Republicans. But will this help end the stalemate?
The latest out of Louisville, where at least 9 people are dead following that fiery crash involving a UPS plane. What we've learned about the final moments before that plane went down.
And a key piece of President Trump's agenda is right now before the Supreme Court. How the court's decision could impact everything from presidential power to the cost of living.